raising the desk so I can stand up. Thought about that as I hit the start button. I was like, I think I'd rather just stand up and do this thing. So you guys are coming up to my level there. There you are. Folks, welcome to another Manana. There we go. Thanks for another coming to another Manana No Mas, live, right? So I call them Manana No Mas Thursday lives. Just about every Thursday, I come to you at 10 o'clock a.m. Central, and I come with a couple of different subjects. And today's subject is more in our leadership channel. So I'll do some tech talks, and then I'll do some leadership talks. And I try not to overdo it with the leadership stuff. I am very, very passionate about leadership and communication and the cadence of speech and things like that. But I realize that's not everybody's bag. So I do a lot on tech. I've talked about every business needs a learning management system. I've talked about how to use Fluent CRM. I've talked about different things, how to host your website, how to build a WordPress website, all those kinds of things. But today's focus is going to be on leadership. And one of the inspirations for today's talk on leadership, it's been about 2 weeks now since I told a story about coaching a young lady on a new trail on the mountain bike team. 16 years old. So I work with kids between 6th grade and 12th grade on a mountain bike team here in Hutchinson, Kansas. And it's been about 2 weeks. I went live and I told a story about working with this young lady who turns out can't really see. So she's trying to mountain bike in the woods and she can't really see. And so her hand-eye coordination is off because of this, equilibrium issue. And she's running off the trail every 15 to 20 yards, it seems like. And she's really battling to get through just the first lap of what this trail ride would be. And me and a couple of other coaches are working with her and, words of affirmation and all these things. And the key to this was at no point did she say, this sucks, I suck, let's go back to the parking lot. Is there a shortcut? None of that ever happened. She finished the lap, got to the parking lot, and smiled from ear to ear. And there were so many takeaways from that experience that it sat with me. And when I gave that live, there were multiple comments that came into me that were like, that was so inspiring, or that was this, or that was that. Well, Sunday, again, we went mountain biking as a team. And I see you coming in. If you're joining the live now, feel free to jump into comments. Let me know who you are, where you're from, those kinds of things. And if you have any comments or anything that resonates with you, feel free, put it in the comments, and then I can interact with you, say hi, those kinds of things. I'd love to put you on screen. But today, I wanted to talk about the practice we had this last Sunday. So last Sunday, again, I live in Hutchinson, Kansas. So you're going to say there's no mountain biking in Kansas. There's no mountains there. There is mountain biking in Kansas, and some of it is top-notch stuff. So we went to this place called Coronado Heights. Coronado Heights is, I think it's a little bit west of a town called McPherson in Kansas, which is kind of close to Wichita. So if you're going to say, okay, give me some big name cities in Kansas that I might know. Wichita's one, right? I'm going to Wichita. And so to the west of Wichita is this town called McPherson. And on the outside of McPherson is this place called Coronado Heights. When you get there, if you're from another state that has mountains, you're going to be like, that's not a mountain, it's a hill. So it is, it's a hill. And on this hill is like an old castle. It's not really a castle. It's like this big stone building, which has a thing you can climb up on and look off of. But we call it a castle. It looks like a castle. And right next to that is the entrance into the trail. So my expectations were not high. All right. I have mountain biked in some really cool extreme places in Southern California, in Arizona, in Nevada. So I've been around a little bit, been to Utah. So my mountain biking, I've seen a diverse diverse terrain. And so we go mountain biking at this place. The team unloads. Again, we got sixth grade through 12th grade with us. We have a coach that takes the lead. I take the sweep. Sweep means I'm in the last spot. I'm just there to make sure nobody dies on the trail and everybody gets finished. And we go into the trail, and it's a real trail. It's got roots, it's got rocks, it's got ruts, it's got jumps, it's got, when I say jumps, it has, jumps, and then it also has drop offs where you'd come up over the edge of a rock and drop down 2 feet or something like that. Nothing huge, nothing that is like really going to be like a daredevil experience. All right. But here's the thinking, and this is why I wanted to have this talk today. There are so many parallels in coaching young people and coaching anybody to mountain bike competitively, to coach anybody to up their game at cycling. There are so many parallels to that and business and entrepreneurship that it actually started to become kind of a mind-boggling experiment for me on Sunday. So let me explain. The first lap happens, and like I said, it's honest to goodness mountain biking. It is single track. We're in the woods. Like I said, we're going down first, so we've got roots and rocks and jumps. We've got a couple of gaps to clear, and some of these visually are big obstacles to younger people, right? These are people that maybe this is the first time they've seen this. And so, on the brakes, jump off, take a look at it, maybe walk through the obstacle the first time, try and build your confidence over time and experience and the things that we do in life. As grown adults, we don't just, do willy-nilly crazy things usually. No, we usually work our way up to things until we have a level of expertise that gives us confidence. It's like with my public speaking. Most people say they would rather die than have to speak publicly somewhere. And yet I'm somebody that embraces the opportunity to get on stage and to add value to people, because it's a skill that I've been able to develop by overcoming fears and obstacles and filling in gaps and becoming proficient at it. And so now I enjoy, if I get up to, by the way, when I speak publicly in a live arena somewhere, it's not the same as seeing me stand in my office and talk, right? I love it. The energy of an audience is just an amazing thing. But I digress. As we're going around the first lap, we're stopping on inclines, we're stopping on declines, we're stopping at rocks, we're stopping at hard turns, there's a lot of stopping and a lot of starting. But as a coach, my job is to be patient, lend words of affirmation, give them a few clues, right? Hey, if you carried a little more speed into that corner, your front wheel would go right over that root. Hey, your bike has suspension. So your bike is designed to overcome those obstacles. Instead of swerving to go around them, just hit them head on and you'll go right over. How much does that sound like business coaching to you? Right? Sometimes in business, we come around a corner, right? Sometimes we leave the conference room. Sometimes we leave a client's office. And if we don't re-engage, if we don't get up to speed right away after an obstacle in business, we're not able to quickly ascend the next obstacle, right? If we're not quick to explode with decision making and optimism and all these things that help businesses forge forward, if we're not quick to respond in a positive way, sometimes obstacles can become bigger than they really are. And that's what I'm talking about with this. So we finished the first lap. Now, some kids are energetic. They're ready to go right away. Other kids are tired. Okay. There's a huge swath of athletic ability on this team. And so, and not for nothing, I could lose a couple of pounds myself, right? So doing some of these climbs, they were real climbs. I mean, one lap was about 300 feet of climbs. Do you think, that's not a big deal? When I lived in California, we would start our rides on 1,600 feet of climb. Like we would get to the park and we would climb 1,600 feet up so we could do the descent, right? This case is different. This case is we're going to jump out of the trucks and we're going to descend, 250, 260 feet. And then we got, about 300 feet of climb to get back up and then do these cycles again. And so we finished the lap. We're having kind of a powwow. And one of the things that comes up is I said, hey, we were stopping a lot. On this next lap, our goal is to stop less. So, what did you learn about the obstacles that you stopped for that you feel you could overcome this coming lap? Like, if you were to focus on what went, I'm not going to say what went wrong, but if you were to focus on what your challenges were on that first lap, on your sighting lap, again, first time for many of them to be there. So, we call this a sighting lap. So, we say, based on the obstacles you saw on that sighting lap, what changes would you make to your riding style or to your effort on the second lap so you wouldn't have to stop as many times? So that if this were a race, if this were a competition, how would you get over those obstacles and keep going to the next obstacle? Okay. And a couple of kids would say, well, I could lift my front tire over the root, or I could, swing my front tire to the outside of the turn on that switchback, right? Because on a bank switchback, your bike tends to go down the incline towards the center of the turn, towards the apex of the turn. So if you put the front tire in up high, generally you can carry more speed. And when you come out of the turn, you'll naturally fall into the center of the trail instead of be off to the inside of the trail. Okay, so we were talking a little bit about technique. We were talking a little bit about effort. And one of the things that came up, and this is one of the things that really hit home for me, and this is how I thought about business. Got to remember, I can't. Sometimes I have a hard time making the differentiation between, oh my God, I'm teaching kids how to mountain bike, or I'm teaching kids how to be the best entrepreneurs in the world. And I coach a lot of businesses. So as a business consultant and a mountain bike coach, I'm having this, cacophony of noise happen in my head where everything is related. So a couple of kids said, man, these climbs are nasty. For the record, there is one climb there, and it's probably only 35, 40 feet of elevation, maybe, but it is steep, rocky, roots, little plateaus. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. And there's not many adults, there's not very many experienced cyclists that are going to pound into this the first try and go right up this hill. There's not many adults that are going to hit it second or third time. We've got coaches on the team that are fit. I say that because I'm not very fit right now, but we have coaches on the team that are fit, that struggle, that don't make it up this incline. And so as we came to this incline, there were a lot of kids that just bailed, just jumped off the bikes and started pushing their bikes up the hill. There were other kids that tried to go up the hill. There were a few people that really did try to go up the hill and made it 60, 70% up the hill. Now, if you're an avid cyclist and you're hearing me talk about this 35 or 40 foot incline, you're probably like, why? This isn't a big deal. It is a big deal because technically the climb is very difficult. Technically, the climb is very difficult. It might not be a mile of climbing like when I used to do the San Diego Century in Southern California. About 60 or 70 miles in, there was this thing they called the Purple Dragon, and it was just this long 7% climb that just kept going steady, 7%, just boom, 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 up this hill. And they would time you for it, right? And so there was a physical challenge because of the length of the climb. I'm not talking about the length of the climb. I'm talking about the technical ability to do the short, punchy climb. And so a lot of kids jumped off and didn't even try it. And a piece of wisdom came out of my face talking to these kids. And I said, hey, when you come up to an obstacle, instead of trying to figure out, can I do this or not? Instead of like when you get to a climb, don't say, can I do this climb or not? What I want you to do is I want you to gamify it. I want you to ask yourself, how far up can I go? How far up can I go? That's a whole different question. Can I make it or not? That's a yes or no, right? If the answer is no, if you know the answer is no, why even try? Just jump off the bike and start pushing, right? Hike a bike. I call that hike a bike. When that sometimes the best bicycling I've had has been hike a bike, right? Where I get somewhere in over my head and I end up just carrying the bike, up some rocks or whatever. Hike a bike. So if the answer is no, like, can I do this? Yes or no? It's a yes or no question. So if the answer is no, why even try? Just jump off, start carrying that bike, start pushing it. But if that's happening multiple times in a lap over things that you should be able to surmount, the question shouldn't be, can I make it? Yes or no. The question should be, how far can I go? How far can I make it? How high can I go? How close can I get to beating this obstacle? Now, I don't want you to think that a couple of words from an old dude with a gray beard change. Like, that's just not. I am frozen. Am I coming back? All right. I don't know if it says I'm live. My face froze and I don't know if I came or went. Maybe I had an internet glitch, but I'll keep going because I think this talk is important. How far can I go? Again, I can't pretend that I'm the magic. It's not me. I'm not the magic. My gray beard and all that stuff doesn't make me a wizard. It's, did they absorb what I said? Did they make it real? So we go out for lap number 2. Folks, it was a whole different team. It was a whole different team. We come up, you're doing this little incline and there's a big root that goes across the trail and a bunch of kids, pop that front wheel right over the root, just kept on going. No stopping. We come around a hairpin corner and the trail dips down. So you come around a hairpin corner and right down a little descent. Not a big descent, 10, 12 feet maybe. Boom, sharp descent, hard turn at the bottom. All the kids, round the corner, down the descent, round the corner. No stops, no problems. Because they weren't asking themselves, can I do this? Yes or no. They were saying, how far can I go? How far can I do this? How hard can I push myself and keep finding success? And part of the coaching there is, how far can you go and find success? That's awesome. At the end of success, that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. We fail forward. We find our limits, and then we find ways to exceed those limits the next go. So that's not a bad thing. Now, what are some other things that came up, or what are some other things that I said during my coaching when I was on trail with these guys? One thing was, I noticed a lot of kids, because we're on a new trail, we're in a confined space, we're on single track, there's a lot of obstacles. When that happens, a lot of kids start to focus on the front wheel. As they're riding, they're looking down and they're going, oh my God, I don't want to hit that rock. I don't want to hit that root. I don't want to hit that, and they're trying to miss stuff. And there's something that our human brain and human body can do. And it's a thing that I really recommend for business. You see, business has a habit of putting a lot of obstacles in front of us, rocks and roots and things like, right. And we start focusing down on the problems right in front of our front wheel. In business, we start to hyper focus on things that are little obstacles, but they look big. Why? Because we're looking at them close up. Well, boom, and they're right there and we see them. And there's something magical that happens in the human body when you pick up your field of vision and you look forward and you look ahead. So when you're on a trail, when you're mountain biking on a trail, when you look down and you're looking at rocks and roots and stuff and you're trying to miss stuff, everything's happening fast. Everything's like, whoop, whoop, up, 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 up. But when you pick up your head and you look forward, everything slows down and everything starts coming to you at a metered pace. And remember what I said earlier? There are some obstacles that we just want to hit head on, because our bike, our equipment, has the capacity to absorb the shock of the obstacle. This is important. If we liken this to business, The systems and the processes that we put into our business should be able to absorb obstacles, should be able to go right over little speed bumps in our way. When we hyper focus on all these little speed bumps and nooks and crannies, whether it be on the mountain bike trail or in business, we become overwhelmed. We become hyper. We get excited. We get anxious. And we don't want that anxiousness. We want to be calm. And so when we pick our eyes up physically on the mountain bike trail and we just look forward as far as we can down the trail, everything slows down and we can see in advance these obstacles coming to us and we can make a judgment. Is that something I really need to swerve around, or is that something I can hit head on? Now imagine doing that in business. Imagine being able to look far enough down the calendar in business, right? So when I say pick your eyes up and look down the trail, in business, we're looking down the calendar. How far in advance can we see in our business things that are good, things that are bad, things that might be an obstacle, and do we have processes in place where we can go hit those obstacles head on, and our processes absorb those obstacles and help us to sail straight through? You see, because process development in your business is one of the things that just smooths out the trail for you. And so it's super, super huge to have that. And so I say, eyes up, look forward, and the further you look down, the faster you can go. This is the next thing I want to hit on because it deals with performance and speed. I don't want to get the two mixed up. So on one hand, I'm saying, don't look down at the front wheel, right? You want to pick up your eyes and look forward, and then you know what you can hit head on, right? You want to know, do I need to swerve around that? Can I hit that head on? Will my bike absorb that? How far can I go? These are all the things. These are all the positive things, okay? And then the further you're able to look down trail, or in business, the further you're able to look down the calendar, the further you're able to look in the future, the faster you can go. And that's a thing that a lot of people struggle with. But when I was racing motorcycles, one of the things we would teach people racing motorcycles at the track was, hey, think about driving down the highway and you see the dotted line. That when you're driving down the highway, there's the dotted line, right? And so if you were to focus on that dotted line and move your field of vision right to where your rear view mirror is, like where your side view mirror is, you're looking out the door, you're going 55, 60 miles an hour. How fast are those dots? Because now they're not lines, now they're dots. How fast are those dots going by, right? So optically, you're seeing them go, right? But if you pick up your field of vision and you look out the windshield and you look at the road, now they're lines and they're coming at you really metered and slow, right? So now you could go 70, you could go 80, you could go 90 and not feel anxious because you are seeing the road come at you. Even if there's a slight curve, you are seeing things more clearly and you're able to attack things more quickly. So in mountain biking, the same thing is very true. The further I can look down the trail, the more things visually slow down, the less anxious I am physically, which allows me to physically perform at a higher level. So in mountain biking, the further I can look, the faster I can adjust and go. In business, the further I can look into the future and make those adjustments to process, to know that I can absorb obstacles as they come my way, the faster my business can grow and the faster we can find success and expand. Folks, I know that that is a big deal. It's a big subject. But if you're watching me now and you're like, I try to watch this guy and I try to understand what he talks about, and sometimes it's crystals and pyramids, and sometimes it's tech, like how to push this, how to push that. The action item from this depends on where you're at in your journey. So if you own your own business, if you're the CEO, if you're in the C-suite and you're hearing this right now, maybe you already know this and you have that skill set and you're like, well, yeah, that's how I got to this position. I'm able to look forward and plan for issues, right? But I always struggle with why middle management's always freaking out, or every time we have a meeting, someone's complaining about something that seems inconsequential. Those are the people that need your mentoring, that need your guidance. When you can pull them aside and say, hey, you seem a little anxious about this. Is everything okay? What are you thinking and feeling right now? Well, what processes do you have in place to overcome the things that affect your department? And so, do we need to do a process map to understand at a more finite level what your department's responsible for? How do you see these obstacles coming your way? How do you absorb the obstacles coming at you in your department? Right? So, if we as leaders were able to mentor these people, and then all of a sudden they come to the next meeting, or maybe two, three meetings from now, you start to see that they have a little more confidence, a little less anxious. They've got some processes in place. Their efficiency and productivity is up. Their profitability is starting to look good. Like everything's starting to work, right? And then what do? You, as a leader, as a person in the C-suite, you look for the next anxious person in the meeting, and you're like, "Hey, I just worked with Susie Q over here, and she's developed some processes and she's increased her output quite a bit, and she seems more relaxed over it." That's the crazy thing, right? It's like the faster we go and the more efficient and the more productive we are, the the more calm we become, and the more able to do more it seems we're able to do. A lot of people get fixated on this. Oh my God, we're so shorthanded. Oh my God, there's so much to do. Oh my God. And that's just not real. It might feel real, but it's not real in many cases. Some cases it is. But in many cases, when I consult with business, I will talk to the owner who seems to have a grasp on looking forward and understanding goals and overcoming obstacles, but they don't have the energy or the time or the bandwidth to work with that middle management level to get them where they need to be. And a lot of times that's where the work that we do really comes, the fruit gets picked from the tree, right? Is we will identify one, two, three department heads that feel overwhelmed, that feel short staffed, that feel like the equipment isn't up to snuff, or they've always got something that they're pointing at that they're saying, this impedes me from finding success. And so then we help them figure out, well, these are the tools that you have. So what processes do you have in place that optimize the use of these tools and optimize your staff? And everybody has a role. And what process can we put in place for your production, for your business, for your whatever, for your department, that smooths some of that out, that allows you to look more forward on the calendar and plan more appropriately? What can we do to cement some things so that you don't feel anxious or harried or put upon to execute? And a lot of times we find the solutions are pretty simple. It's just people haven't taken the time. They don't feel like they have the time. They don't feel like they have the grace to give real thought and execution to things. And folks, that's what I'm coming away with all this mountain bike training. You might watch this. You might watch the replay and have some comments. You might have comments like, Kurt, you're crazy. Mountain biking ain't the same as running a business. Stop. And if that's your position, that's fine. That's fine. But there are so many parallels to athletics and business that I feel that if we don't explore them, if we don't look at like what makes me a successful athlete, how could I translate that to make me a successful business person? I think we're missing a link. I think we're missing an opportunity. My daughter is a figure skating coach. There are lots of obstacles in figure skating. We average people, because I'm an average person, we look at figure skating and we're like, oh, that's magic. How does she do that with her body? How does she skate backwards with one foot in the air? And you go, oh, right. Sometimes they make it look simple. Sometimes they make it look so simple that you actually think you could do it yourself. Other times you can see the work that it takes. And so when you see somebody that's really good at their craft, like my daughter is with the figure skating, when you see that, you go, that's hours and hours and hours of practice and process, because figure skating doesn't happen by accident. It's a process. The edge of your blade has to be a certain way. So much of your balance has to be over the balance point. So much of this, so much of that. and it takes hours and hours and hours to get to each craft. I'm a child of the 80s, right? So I'm 57 years old this year, and I can remember in the 80s people were breakdancing. People didn't just stroll up to a piece of cardboard in downtown Philadelphia, throw themselves on the ground and make it look like they were dancing. No, these cats were practicing in garages and alleys and all kinds of places, right? Away from prying eyes. They were figuring out, how to do their thing. And then they would go and perform, right? In business, we don't often get that chance. Middle management very rarely gets a chance to go practice behind closed doors and then come out and perform when it counts. Unfortunately, they have to build a practice and perform simultaneously in real life, on the production line, in the conference room. We expect it to happen. And because that expectation is so high, the anxiety levels are high. And so when we need to take a breath and extend a little bit of grace, and we need to kind of analyze what's the core makeup of what we're doing. What are the core features? How do we set this to a process? And then once that process is in place, how do we analyze that process post-mortem and improve it? And then we just keep going, just like we would if we were mountain biking on a trail. Folks, that's what I've got for you for today. Um, I don't think we're going to be doing leadership next week. I think next week, in fact, next week, I don't think we're doing a live next week. Or if we do, it might be at a different time. If you want to know when these lives will be scheduled, I encourage you to go to manananomas.com and click on subscribe at the bottom, and then you'll get these email messages that come out about weekly that tell you not only when we'll be live, but what the core subject's going to be. And so if you would be interested in following along with that, join that list. I try not to spam people. Like I said, I usually put out a weekly message, and then that's it. And usually it's about, hey, here's the one or two things that we did as an agency that I thought were cool this week. Pardon me. And then, here's the subject we're going to talk about. And so if you would like to be a part of this in an ongoing way, I'd love to have you. And if you're interested in anything Manana Nomas does, go to manananomas.com and look us up. Folks, I'm going to let you go for now. It's been a pleasure. I will see you very, very soon, and I'll put out an announcement on whether we're going to be talking about tech or leadership next time. I think we're going to be doing something on tech. We have been delving into AI quite a bit. We did a 2-part series on my personal journey using AI, but we've had some challenges this week with some requests for AI. So we may have a topic about the limitations or the expected use of AI by clients. And I think it would be good, almost like a, hey, don't set the bar too high. This is where we're at for now, right? But who knows? It's changing so quickly. It is changing so quickly. Have yourself a wonderful day. I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye-bye.